This is part 2 in my series for shipping on eBay, and I am covering all of the standard shipping models that you're going to see with eBay. And this is number 2, and we're going to talk about the eBay standard envelope. And this was specifically created for some certain needs. And so let's dive right in, and I'm going to tell you about the 10 things that you need to know in order to take care of this very, very good program that eBay has put together. So let's get started. The first thing that you need to know about the eBay standard envelope, it was created for specific categories. And that includes coins and currency, stamps, and trading cards. And within that, there's a lot of different restrictions, but it was created for those. I did reach out to eBay and asked if they would expand this into other categories, and they said that they are looking at that because there's a lot of other things that would fit inside the envelope requirements that eBay currently has. So hopefully in the future, this will apply to more categories because it is extremely cost effective when compared to first class. So let's move on to number 2. The maximum weight that you can ship in the eBay standard envelope is 3 ounces. And you can get there awful quick. That's not very many baseball cards for you to get to 3 ounces. So keep that in mind when you weigh your items in their package. If it's over 3 ounces, it'll have to go by a different method. Let's move on to number 3. The size restrictions for the envelope. It can't be any smaller than 3.5 inches by 5 inches. It can't be any larger than like 6 1/8 by 11 1/2. If you just remember 6 by 11, you'll be pretty close. But if it's bigger than that, it won't ship this way. And it can't be any thicker than 1/4 inch. So if your package is under 3 ounces and it falls within those ranges on the size, you're still good for the eBay standard envelope. Number 4, the biggest reason at all that this is a huge coup is shipping in the eBay standard envelope starts at 60 cents and it goes up to just, I think right now it's $1.08. And keep in mind, depending upon when you're watching this video, those prices can change a little bit. But you can already see, compared to the first class packages, this is significantly cheaper. So big kudos. Number 4, the cost savings is enormous. Number 5, when you use eBay standard envelope, you're going to get integrated tracking. One of the biggest issues for the longest time is if you shipped with anything other than first class or media mail or something like that, you didn't get any tracking. And eBay requires you to have tracking. And eBay has tracking built into this. So when you buy your label through eBay, you'll get automatic tracking. And keep in mind, you're going to have to buy your label through eBay in order to get that. So, all right, let's move on to number 6. Now, the eBay standard envelope isn't suitable for everything. And you're going to have to be really careful with it. It's made for small flat items. It is not made for anything fragile. It isn't made for anything like batteries. You couldn't put little watch batteries in there, even though they might fit, because they can't be shipped via air, and some of this will go via air. So keep that in mind. Just because something might fit in the envelope and something might meet the weight restrictions, it may not necessarily work for an eBay standard shipping envelope. All right, let's take a look at number 7. And this is the one that'll trip up a lot of people. It doesn't trip up me because if I had something that didn't meet this criteria, I would ship it a different way anyway. And that is, if you're going to use the eBay standard envelope, the maximum value that it can have is $20. So if you put a baseball card on auction and it sold for $21, you need to ship that in a different way than the eBay standard envelope. And keep in mind, eBay will know what it sold for. Now, the one benefit of that is if a person bought this $19 card and then they bought a $17 card and then they bought a $10 card, as long as the weight on those was okay, combined orders can have a value of up to $50. And I didn't do the math on my numbers, but as long as the value was under $50, you could still ship it in an eBay standard envelope on combined orders. Let's move on. Number 8, and that is tracking. The tracking on this is internal to eBay, which means that you're not going to be able to get onto the post office website and track your package. All of the tracking is done either through your seller hub or through the purchase history for the buyer so that they can go back and see it. It'll still show when it was shipped, it'll still show those kind of things, but it isn't being done by the post office. That leads us to number 9, which is kind of an important one. Because the tracking isn't done by the post office, the seller protections aren't quite as strong as when you have a third party that can verify this item arrived at such and such a date. So if you have a sketchy buyer that says the item didn't get there, it's a little bit harder for you to prove that it did unless the postman stopped and scanned something that they didn't have to. So keep that in mind, that there's fewer seller protections, but there's also a price limit, so you're not shipping a $200 item this way. And the last one, number 10, is just about how this moves through the system. For the post office's part, this is going to move like first class mail. And in my last video, we talked about the difference between first class mail and a first class package. And it's small, it's flat, it's going through the mail system, which means that the shipping times will be just a little bit different than a first class package. Typically, it's 1 to 5 days, but it will vary a lot during peak seasons. You need to keep that in mind when you're shipping items with this first class standard envelope. Those are the 10 things that I think will get you started on understanding what this service is. I think it's an amazing service. If you can save money on your shipping, that money's going in your pocket. So this was number 2 on the series. We will be coming out with number 3 very, very soon. I appreciate you watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.